Hello YouTube. Today we'll do a how-to on distributors. And basically here we have a distributor machine where we can test test the advance weights, we can test the condensers, we can test the resistance, we can test the dwell and or gap, and we can also set points. So here is a dual point distributor. Bugatti used these, or big V12s. Primarily anybody over an 8-cylinder used dual points, or if you're looking for a hotter spark, they may run them. But here is our machine, and we'll go over the distributor basics. One, you have your points here and there. Now, just going off of a meter and you test continuity through the points and making sure that it flows energy is not always enough, because you need a good surface to throw current into that coil and then to break it apart, to collapse it. So don't go just off of a resistance meter. Also use your eye and make sure that they are in good contact with each other. And you can do that by adjusting or bending the points here so that they're square, and never use sandpaper to clean the points. And the reason for that is the sandpaper glue and the grit stays in there. Use a points file. It's a very thin file, or even a nail file or something can get in there and clean it off. There's some argument whether the corrosion that occurs between the points, because then it starts looking like the surface of the moon, is real rough, but they're each matching. It actually gives more surface area and better current flow if you just leave it alone. I'll let you to decide whether that's correct or not. Here are your capacitors. There's different signs if you have bad capacitors. Your bad capacitors will typically produce weak spark or intermittent spark, but you'll still have spark. So if you're having weak or intermittent, it's usually cheap enough just to pop in a new capacitor. Be wary of these Chinese pieces of junk that are made today. So you have advance weights in here. See how the without the shaft moving at the bottom, your cam here will turn and move. Well, that's because there's advance weights in here. So as the distributor turns faster and faster, you'll see the advance weights walk out, and it'll advance this cam, and it'll increase or advance the timing, and it'll late the timing as you slow down the RPM. Others will also have a vacuum advance, which will, when you have hard vacuum, it'll actually late the timing, and then as you, it'll advance the timing, and then as you drop the vacuum, it'll advance it, or late it. Excuse me, I'm saying that backwards. So that's basically the basics of the distributor. Now let's set it. So you have 2 points on 12 cylinders. So 360 degrees, as you see my wheel here, divided by 12 cylinders is, you guessed it, 30. So you take, you turn the distributor and the rotation that it's supposed to be in, or that it will function in. And that's because every cylinder that fires off of this in the next 30 degrees, you're going to need to fire again, and that's going to be coming from this block. The reason for that is important to understand. A coil in typical point system is good up to about 8 cylinders. Once you get beyond that, your coil doesn't have enough time between sparks to fully charge. And the more cylinders you put and the higher the load per coil, the weaker the spark and the more perfect all this has to be. If you're running an 8-cylinder on one coil, one capacitor, one set of points, it has to be very accurate and very good. As you get down to a 4-cylinder, shoot, your dwell can be all over. So it's not quite as precise. So you take 12 cylinders, you put it on one coil, it doesn't really give enough energy or current to that coil in collapsing time and everything. It's just not enough for it. So they break it up. So let's go here and let's test it. So you can see the strobe is functioning. It's there, and then up at the top here. So you get 6. So first, in our timing, let's check the dwell. For 6 cylinders, 31 degrees. There's 31 degrees. Of course, I already adjusted this, but this one's off. So let's go here. We set our ring. It's hard to get on the camera, but I think that's real close to being accurate there. Let's turn this up to a couple RPM. Okay, now we pull this off and we go to the next set of points. Lo and behold, look at that, it's at 30 degrees. So we know that that's correct. If that's off, simply what will happen is you have one side running whatever degrees this is, independent or different from the other side of the block. It will cause points, or it'll plug your, one side will run hotter than the other side, or you generally have issues. So to adjust the dwell, you adjust that here and you adjust it there. It'll be different depending on the distributor. But yeah, there you have it. That's how it's done. Any questions, post them up and I'll be happy to answer them. On this, it has an independent cam, so you go onto the motor, you set your TDC number 1, you go to the points open, you lock it down, you're done and set. Your advance, oh, let's talk about the advance. So your mechanical advance. So you'll see it's at 0 there. Let's turn this on. We're turning 500 RPM. Let's increase your RPMs here. Get up to 1500 or 3000 crank. Should be about max RPM of the distributor. You can see that it has advanced, what is that, 7 degrees. So the mechanical advance is good for about 7 degrees, and then you also have a mechanical advance that you also turn the distributor. So any questions, post them up. Pleased to answer them. See ya.